John Bones Jones was born July 19, 1987, in Rochester, New York, to Arthur Jr. and Camille Jones. His brothers, Arthur III and Chandler, both played defensive line in the NFL, and both are Super Bowl champions. Jones earned the nickname Bones from his high school football coach because of his tall and lanky frame. He won a state championship in wrestling while attending Union Endicott High School and a national JUCO championship while attending Iowa Center Community College. UFC president Dana White has called him the greatest talent ever and the biggest screw-up ever. He quickly became one of the greatest UFC fighters of all time, but his fall was just as fast. This is the career of John Bones Jones.
In April of 2008, Jones made his MMA debut in a first-round TKO win against Brian Bernard. Just about 4 months and 5 fights later, Jones made his UFC debut in a win by unanimous decision over Andre Guzmão. Jones quickly made a name for himself in the UFC. After improving to 9-0, in 2009 Jones lost for the first time to Matt Hamill, after being disqualified for his use of illegal elbows during the fight. After winning his next 2 fights by first-round knockout, Jones was offered a title fight against Shogun Rue after Rashad Evans had to pull out of the match due to an injury. After accepting the fight, Jones went on to defeat Rue at UFC 128 in 2011 by TKO in the 3rd round to become the youngest UFC light heavyweight champion in history. Jones enjoyed a successful title reign as the UFC light heavyweight champion. He was challenged by some of the greatest fighters in the sport and defeated them all. His first title defense was against Quinton Rampage Jackson. The fight ended with a Jones victory, as he then went on to defeat Lyoto Machida, Vitor Belfort, Chael Sonnen, and his former teammate Rashad Evans. After the toughest fight of his career up to that point, against Alexander Gustafsson, Jones was scheduled to fight former Olympian Daniel Cormier. A promotional tour was set up for the fight, and tensions quickly began to run high. The two became involved in an altercation at a press conference that resulted in Jones being fined $50,000. He falsely claimed that he had lost a 6-figure endorsement deal with Nike due to this altercation, but he had later confessed that it was due to other actions of his. As the fight for itself, it was held January 3rd, 2015 at UFC 172.
Jones and Cormier went all 5 rounds, with Jones winning by unanimous decision, 49-46, 49-46, and 49-46. However, 3 short days after the fight, Jones checked into a rehab center after testing positive for cocaine prior to his fight with Daniel Cormier. He was charged $25,000 for the positive test. His victory against Cormier was the peak of his career. However, the peak had a steep drop-off.
Now to the latest on the investigation to John Bones Jones.
Action 7 News reporter Aaron Hill spoke to the pregnant woman who was in the car Jones is accused of hitting.
Too bad. Look at this. John, take it down.
He's the reigning UFC light heavyweight champion, and he's trained here in Albuquerque for years. But now, John Bones Jones finds himself in some trouble. Albuquerque police believe he's the person who caused a 3-car accident Sunday morning, then ran from the scene. The pregnant woman who was hit says she couldn't believe it.
Breaking news is happening now.
And now breaking news we have just learned, UFC star John Bones Jones is being suspended and stripped of his championship title.
That comes just hours after the UFC's president flew to Albuquerque to learn more about the felony charges Jones faces in connection with a hit-and-run crash. KOAT Action 7 News reporter Matt Howerton is here with all the new developments.
Doug, Shelley, Dana White told me just a few hours ago he was headed back to Las Vegas to decide what to do with John Jones in the wake of his arrest. Turns out White didn't need much time to think it over.
The facts are, and now we fly home and figure out what's next.
But late tonight, White's company dropped a bombshell. Effective immediately, Jones is stripped of his light heavyweight title and is suspended indefinitely.
After the hit-and-run incident, Jones was placed on supervised probation for 18 months. The UFC stripped him of the light heavyweight title and he was suspended indefinitely. 6 months after his return from suspension, Jones was pulled over by law enforcement for drag racing.
Driver's license, registration, insurance, please turn your car off. Why are you drag racing that Cadillac?
I didn't drag race
driver's license, registration, and insurance, please.
I did not drag race a Cadillac. Man, you're just harassing me, man.
I'm just asking you a simple question,
My car
Jonathan.
is low because it's a sports car. I just simply read
Both
my
of you
engine.
took off at a high rate of speed, sir.
No, I did
Only
not.
you kept going. He
no,
slowed down.
I did not.
Okay.
You are an absolute fucking liar.
Well, we can talk about it in court. I need you to sign inside this box.
How do you sleep with yourself? Fucking
Mostly on my left side, sometimes on my back.
harassing me like this. Can't wait till you get out of my face. You're despicable.
I feel the same way about you, sir.
Pig. Disgust me.
Once again, feelings mutual.
This incident forced Jones to have to complete both anger management and driver safety courses due to his violation of probation. In his first fight after his return, Jones fought and defeated Ovent St. Pro at UFC 197 by unanimous decision. Jones wanted his position as light heavyweight champion again. He was scheduled to fight for the title in a rematch against Daniel Cormier at UFC 200 in July of 2016, but was taken off of the card for drug violation.
All the staff of the UFC, Daniel Cormier, I want to apologize to Daniel Cormier. I know that this fight means a lot to him.
On November 7, 2016, Jones was suspended for doping and stripped of his interim title, making him the first fighter in UFC history to be stripped of a title twice. After returning from his second suspension, Jones got the opportunity to fight Daniel Cormier for the light heavyweight championship on July 29, 2017 at UFC 214. Jones defeated Cormier by knockout after a vicious head kick followed by a series of punches while Cormier was on the ground.
John Jones in white getting off early here. Cormier in the black with gold.
Cormier checking the kicks very well right off the bat. See if he catches it. Can create wrestling from the catching those kicks at all.
Big, looked like he knocked the mouthpiece out.
He did. He caught it. Big punches landed by DC.
Jones touching the
Just having a hard time reaching John. Oh, John landed a high kick. He's hurt.
DC was stunned by that head kick.
That could be it.
Trying to
That's it. He's out. He's out.
John, light heavyweight champion. How about it?
Wow.
Jones appeared to be back in his rightful spot at the top of UFC's light heavyweight division until he once again fell off of his high horse. Just under a month after beating Daniel Cormier for the second time and regaining his light heavyweight championship, reports came out that Jones had potentially violated a drug test. 3 weeks later, the B sample came back positive for Turnaball. As a result of the failed drug test, he was stripped of his title for a third time and indefinitely suspended by the UFC.
In September 2018, Jones agreed to a 15-month suspension after an arbitration hearing and has since been reinstated into the UFC. Jones' first fight back is scheduled to be a rematch against Alexander Gustafsson at UFC 232 on December 29, 2018.